Hey there, welcome back to the Realm of History. Tonight, we have a very important live review for Chapter 12. I think, honestly, Chapter 12 is probably going to be the hardest quiz of the year. Please let me know that you're here in the comments. Give me a little shout out there. We'll get right into things. A little bit lower numbers than I expected. I'm a little bit worried about tomorrow, to be honest with you. The performance in today's review game was subpar, I thought. So I'm a little bit nervous for you guys as students tomorrow, to be honest. Let's go into the key advice. Let's talk first about how you want to use this session. I would write things down from this session, but furthermore, I think what's most important is that you read your outline several times through. I spent some time talking to your parents about making sure that, hey, you're taking good notes, but reading those notes is what's even more important. I think if you haven't read AMSCO, you're in big trouble for tomorrow. So make sure that you read your AMSCO if you haven't done that. Watching the Heimler videos would help. And also the AP Classroom videos. Those are all helpful things that you could do tonight to help get yourself ready for tomorrow. Number two, I want to encourage you to pray for the right things. We have so many things going on in the world right now that are way more important than this quiz. So try to keep things in perspective. Pray for guidance. Pray for people in your life that need help that you've promised to pray for, but also say the prayer of gratitude, the prayer of gratitude to the good Lord for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon you. I would not suggest praying for an A on this quiz, but rather ask the good Lord to guide you to use your talents to the fullest in everything that you do. Number three, I think tomorrow especially, be here now. Today was, I thought, a decent day for most classes, but also being a Monday, some students, I don't think we're all quite being there now, focusing on the task at hand. So you got to come ready to go. And also part of being here now tomorrow would be to have your notes stapled together, because we have a very long assessment tomorrow. We have only 45 minutes per class at St. Mary's. So I think what you need to do is come to class with your notes and your review sheet stapled into a document packet. I passed out all your notes from last chapter today. So everybody should be able to come in, sit down at their desk, turn in their notes, and get started on the quiz paper. Number four, as always, make sure you say thank you to your parents. Remember that you are so blessed, and a lot of it is due to the sacrifices that they are making for you. So make sure that you take a moment to say thank you to your parents. Tell them that you love them. Do what you need to do there. If you have to go do that now, hey, please do that. And number five, I am telling you that tomorrow is going to be a challenge. I try to challenge you every week, but I think this one is really going to be a challenge. This is our first quiz or assessment of marking period number 2. So it's going to start off hard. There's not going to be as much leeway on the AP. It's going to be graded hard. I'm going to be very diligent in grading the SAQ this time. Last time I gave you guys a break, it was your first time doing it. But this time, when you're writing those paragraphs and you're following the format, of cite, explain, evaluate, you're really going to have to do a good job there to get full credit. So it's going to be a challenge. Rather than run away from the challenge, meet the challenge, rise to the occasion. I think that's important. Okay, we did have a tie today for the review game. So third hour and seventh hour had a tie. Now, I have a coin flip simulator, but before I do that, I'm going to go to the comments. Here's what I think. Third hour actually scored 4 points first, and then seventh hour matched. So I'm going to let a representative from third hour pick the heads or tails. So if we got Master Brown or Master Blaze or Master Guy or Master G Smith or maybe Nick Pinkins, anybody who's in that third hour class, go ahead and throw in the comments if you want heads or tails. I'll take the first baller that comments. Looks like Jay Brown and Mikey both said heads. All right, so we're going to go with heads for third hour. Okay, excellent. So third hour has heads, seventh hour has tails. Here we go. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to share the screen so you guys can see this. Let's just do the entire screen. Here we go. It's coming up soon. Okay, we should be sharing it this time. Yes. All right, let's go ahead and grab the coin flip simulator. All I got to do is press that button, and it's going to flip. And then whatever it stops on, that's going to be heads for third hour and tails for seventh hour. So this will determine the winner. Here we go. And it is heads. So that means that third hour is the big winner. So third hour will take the extra credit point. Sorry, that's just the way that it worked out for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the normal screen now. Seventh hour, I'm sure, is going to be mad at me, but have to do it some way and have to figure it out. All right. So third hour is the big winner there. Let's get into key terms, key figures, and key concepts now. Won't have enough time to go through the entire review sheet, but I'm going to go through some that I thought people had questions about today throughout the day. First one is Bushido. Bushido was one of the questions on the, of course, on the review game. So this is meaning the way of the warrior. It's a code of chivalry that samurai followed in Japan. So it's like a rules and laws, or a criteria that samurai would have to follow, and how they would treat other people and how they would interact with others. Next is the term shogun. A lot of students got this question wrong as well. Shogun, by basic definition, is a Japanese leader, usually a military dictator. Okay. Next is Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat was a key place. It was built up by the Khmer Empire, and it was one of the world's greatest architectural achievements. When we learned about it early on, when we took about a look at section 5, Angkor Wat was a Buddhist temple. It's one of the largest temples in the world. So it shows you a little bit of Indian influence in the Khmer Empire. Next is Shinto. Shinto is a Japanese religious practice, and it's known as the way of the gods. Pretty basic there. All right, next for Buddhism, we had a lot of questions on Buddhism. I'm going to refer you to page 284 and 285. There's a great insert there that will give you all the ins and outs of the Buddhist faith. So I think you should study those pages tonight if you haven't done so already. I did tell some of the classes about these pages today if they asked. Next is the Kamakura shoguns. The Kamakura shoguns, basically Kamakura was a city. It was the military headquarters in Japan. And this generally refers to leaders that were in power when the Mongols tried to invade. And these leaders, the Kamakura shoguns, they turned back the naval invasions of the Mongols. So pretty important accomplishment there. Next is, a lot of people had a question about the Heian period today. Heian period in Japan was 794 to 1185. This is a time period in Japanese history when Japan was ruled from the capital city of Heian. Also, though, what was prevalent there is a highly refined court system that was developed to help guide rulers. Basically, when you think about a court system, it's like the emperor or ruler's advisory panel, kind of like today, the president's cabinet. That would be the court system of some of these early rulers in that time period. Another one that was a frequently asked question today was about the feudal period. This is a time period in which feudalism was ongoing in Japan. Feudalism in Japan was talked about in section 4. So it seems like the section that you guys had the homework on is one that we had quite a few questions about. So let me talk about feudalism. Feudalism is a government system where lords are granted land from the ruler. Okay, so the ruler has trouble. Here's what happens in feudalism. A ruler has trouble defending all of the land. So let's say that the new classroom building is our land. Let's say the second floor is our land. And let's say that I am the king, but I cannot defend all the classrooms myself because I'm working in my classroom, right? And I can't make sure that all the other classrooms are safe. So what I do is I own all the land, but I divide up my land to other teachers. Let's say that they are the daimyo or the lord. So all the different classrooms, I put a teacher in there and I say, all right, this is my land, but I'm going to lend it to you so that you can defend it. And the way that they go about defending it is by employing people to fight and defend the land. That's where the samurai would come into play. Okay. So the samurai's job were to defend the land. However, you also have peasants, which would be like the normal students. They would be like just the people doing the general labor to keep the land farmed and irrigated and so on and so forth. So that's kind of like if you think about our building as a feudal system, that's what we're kind of going. That was what was kind of going on in Japan with samurai and daimyo and peasants. And Europe was doing the same thing at this time period in history as well. There was a little bit of confusion between Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan. So Genghis Khan unites the Mongols, and then his grandson Kublai Khan, he's the one that united China. And one thing to remember about him is that he actually stopped the Mongol nomadic way of life because he settled in Beijing. So he settled there, and in the Chinese capital, he stopped being nomadic. So that was kind of a break in Mongol tradition. One key person to also know is Tang Tazong. He was the founder or first ruler of the Tang dynasty, which is something that we started off the chapter learning about. So we learned a little bit about the Tang and the Song in section 1. Okay, that's what I had planned for you guys as far as the going through some of the key terms, some of the key figures. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the AP information. I feel like the AP part is going to be fairly difficult as well. So I wrote down some tips. I gave you guys a lot of information actually on the review sheet. All of the things on the review sheet, very valid. Okay. So number 1 on the review sheet is the civil service exam. You're going to need to know about the civil service exam. You're going to need to know about how Confucius began this, which dynasties utilized it, how did it spread into Korea, Vietnam? Did any of the other areas that China had influence on, did they also implement the civil service examination? What happens if you pass the civil service examination? The people called the gentry, like what social class did they become and why was this important? So you need to know all of those things related there. Number 2, you want to know about religious spread in Southeast Asia, mostly Buddhism. Buddhism is the big one that you really want to know. So once again, page 284 and 285 have a lot more information than we have time for tonight. We can't go through an entire teaching of Buddhism tonight. So you want to know how that spread and where it spread and what impact that had. In the same ideology there, cultural diffusion. So how was Chinese culture diffused to different areas that they had conquered or areas that they had traded with? You're going to want to know that information. Foot binding. We had the video on foot binding, and in the comments at the very top, I did put a link. It doesn't turn into a blue link, so it looks like you're going to have to copy and paste that. But if you do copy and paste that before I close this live stream off, open it in a new tab, and then you'll have an option to watch that video again. I know some of the classes were able to watch it. Other classes didn't have enough time. Either way, we talked about foot binding, but I think it's really important in understanding how women were treated in Tang and Sung China, and even up until the 1920s, this practice was going on. So I think that'd be an important development to take a look at. Number 5, the Tang and Sung developments and inventions. There were many. Gunpowder, the mechanical clock, the magnetic compass, paper money, right? All of the champa rice, all of these different developments / inventions / innovations are going to be important to know about and study. I put a list of important pages at the top. Please study those important pages, and I think that will be very helpful for you on this quiz. Number 6, this one came directly from the AMSCO reading, Political Structures in Northern and Southern India. This was not really related to the content part, but it is in the AMSCO, and you will be assessed tomorrow on your reading comprehension of the AMSCO pages. So that's been up on the board for over a week and a half now. You should have a good understanding of what that reading is about. Some additional tips, kind of outside or in addition to what is on the review sheet. I would say understanding the importance of champa rice. How did it get to China? Where did it come from? Why is it important, right? Those are things you need to know about Champa rice. Number two, once again, I want to go back to the civil service exam. Multiple questions regarding the civil service exam and its importance in Chinese and other dynasties that were influenced by the Chinese. Obviously, the third big picture tip that I have for you is Mongols. Understanding the Mongols' role in conquering. What did they do to people? How did they treat people? What was their role in trade, economic endeavors that they went through? But really, I think focusing on how they facilitated trade during the Pax Mongolica, that time of peace between East Asia and Europe along the Silk Roads, would be really beneficial for you all to know. I will say this, the SAQ topic is going to have 3 questions, and the SAQ topic will be with Mongol conquest. Once again, the SAQ topic is going to be relevant to Mongol conquest, their economic impact, and changes that those conquests of the Mongols had on different groups, different empires, former kingdoms, and regions that they had conquered, controlled, destroyed in some cases. Okay, so that's basically my part of going through. So about 17 minutes there for you. And we have roughly 15 minutes planned out for question and answer session. So I'm expecting there to be some questions. Some of the questions, I'm going to be honest with you, if it's regarding things that are in the AMSCO reading, I'm not going to go through that. AMSCO reading is basically reading comprehension. So I want to assess, were you able to read the college level text, and can you answer questions from that? So if you ask me something that is not on the review sheet, but it's in AMSCO, I might just not do that one. So I'm kind of getting to the point where I don't want to spoon feed you guys everything, but kind of give you some tips and really kind of foster a little bit more intrinsic study habits. Okay, so I'm going to go to the comments. I appreciate you checking in. If you haven't checked in, please do so. And we can kind of go from there. All right. Let's see. I'm just looking through, and I don't see any questions yet. People are whining about the coin toss. Can we use a real coin? I mean, I'm sorry, guys. That's just how it works. Okay. Let's see here. We got a real question. Well, we need to know exactly how many years each dynasty or empire ruled for. I don't think you're going to have to like memorize that. You do want to know chronological order, but Aubrey, I'm going to give you the answer to your question right now, just in case it could help you on something. So the Han dynasty was first, and they come into play in 206 BC, and then they lasted until 220 AD. Then the Sui dynasty came into play in 581 AD and lasted to 618. After that, you have the Tang dynasty, or you guys like to call them the Tang dynasty. They lasted from 618 to 906. Then you have the Sung dynasty. The Sung dynasty lasted from 960 all the way to 1279. So in essence there, you're looking at, the Han dynasty and the Sui dynasty having a big gap. Were there other dynasties? Yes, but these are the most important ones. After the Song came the Yuan dynasty, which was the dynasty controlled by the Mongols. They lasted from 1279 to 1368. So there you have it. If you wanted to use that information, you could, but I don't think you're going to have to like write that out. But I do think it could help you kind of put things into perspective if you had to answer a question about those dynasties in maybe one of the short answers. Will this post right away? Yeah, it usually does, Christian. One thing is, if there's some bad comments, which hopefully there aren't, it won't, but it should post right away after this if everything goes through with YouTube. All right, Antonio wants to know about Prince Shotoku. I have actually taken Prince Shotoku off of the quiz, so you won't have to worry about Prince Shotoku. But he was a Japanese emperor, okay? All right, next, let's move our way down. We got a question about kamikaze. Yeah, so kamikaze, all right, kamikaze is a term in this chapter, okay, in this time period with the Mongols that talks about the divine wind. That's what it really means. It's referring to a typhoon that took place, hurricane like storm that took place during the Mongol naval invasion of Japan. So the Mongols were coming with major ships, and this typhoon destroyed a major portion of their fleet and sort of solidified that they weren't going to be successful in invading and conquering Japan. Later, kamikaze would be used by fighter pilots in World War II. They were kind of pilots from Japan that would basically load up their planes with bombs and then just fly their plane directly into enemy ships on the sea, and they would explode themselves and also hurt those ships, sink those ships. Mikey says, what's a daimyo? Daimyo is also taken off the quiz, but a daimyo means a lord. It's like in the example that I gave where the BAC was a region and each teacher would be a daimyo in that scenario that I went over earlier today on this live review session. So daimyo is like a landowner that was given land by the emperor or king, and their job was to protect that land for the king or emperor. Well, Gumagai, the Han and the Sui, not so much needs to be known about the Han for this quiz. The Sui dynasty, you need to know how they went out of power, and the Tang dynasty came into power. So really, you don't need to know any specifics about these two, but you will need to know Tang, Sung, Yan a little bit more, okay? Well, the 5 dynasties in order, they are in order on your review sheet. So it's Han, Sui, Tang, Sung, Yuan. There you go. Well, Gia, Angkor Wat is not a person. It's a building. It is a temple that was built by the Khmer Empire. And so it's definitely not a person, but it is a place. What would I say the short answers are going to be like? They're going to be, John, they're going to be reading comprehension questions. So they're going to assess things from the AMSCO reading. They're going to kind of evaluate, were you paying attention? Do you understand the key components and the key criteria from the AMSCO reading? So they're going to be similar to our content style short answer questions. That's what I would say. John Brown says, what is Srivijaya? So Srivijaya is a key empire from Section 5. Srivijaya actually owned quite a few different areas, island of Java, Sumatra. But most important thing to know about Srivijaya, John, and everyone else, is that they controlled what's called the Strait of Malacca. And basically what they served as is they served as the middleman. This strait cut off a lot of time in getting to the Indian Ocean. Okay. So anybody that was traveling in this area that came through the Strait of Malacca, Srivijaya would charge them a toll. They had to pay a tax or a fee to travel through there. And so Srivijaya got very wealthy by doing this because a lot of ships were trying to take this shortcut. And so they made a lot of money, created great wealth, and became very powerful due to their control of the Strait of Malacca. And that's spelled Malacca. And that can be found in the reading and in the notes that I passed out to you for Section 5. Do we need to remember the order of the dynasties? Yes, there's going to be at least one question about that. Yes. Okay. Yeah, movable type was a Tong and Song development. So they might not have been like the first to ever use it, but they really popularized it and they used it in a way that you could create templates, which would recreate books at a very, very fast pace. Um, as I said earlier, you don't really need to know much about the Han Dynasty other than the idea that they were one of the earliest Chinese dynasties. And so, excuse me. And so, one of the key things that you really want to know about the Han is that a lot of the practices that were done by the Tang and the Song kind of resemble what the Han did because it was during the Han Dynasty that you have essentially during the Han Dynasty, you have Confucius coming into play, and the civil service exam starts there, which was replicated by the Tang and the Song later on. So, guys, I'm not too concerned with the Han Dynasty. Can you do the Yuan Dynasty? Yeah, Geo. Basically, the Yuan Dynasty is the dynasty controlled by the Mongols. So, this is the dynasty in China started by Kublai Khan when the Mongols take control of both northern and southern China. And so, everything that the Mongols did after late 1200s, okay, is going to be due to the Yuan Dynasty. Um, that's just Vijay Yanagara. Vijay Yanagara, Logan. That's in the AMSCO reading, so you need to know that. Repeat the years the Han Dynasty ruled. Yeah, Han were BC 206 to 220 AD. Not gonna be important like to memorize that or anything like that. Are the Khanats on this quiz? Yeah, Khanate of the Golden Horde in Russia, Ilkhanate, Persia, Khanate of the Great Khan was China, Mongolia, and the Chagatai Khan was Central Asia. Those are definitely the areas controlled by the Mongols. What you need to know about Da Viet is that it's early Vietnam, and this is where champa rice came from, which was culturally diffused to China. Those are some of the most important things that you'll need to know. Feudal period is a time in Japan where feudalism, that system that I talked about being kind of in the scenario about our class building, was kind of the government system in Japan. Okay. Um, I would say the most significant one, Mikey, is the inventions insert from the Tongue and Song. It's one of the pages listed there on the importance. I think it's 328 and 329. That would be probably my biggest suggestion there. How did the Tongue and Song get champa rice? Well, they got it from Da Viet and they traded for it originally. So it was involved in trade and cultural diffusion. But then eventually they take over that region, the Chinese do. And so then they just ship it up, north from where it was located. Well, all the ones on the worksheet that I gave you, Gumagai. So the Koryu dynasty, which is Korea, Srivijaya, which we talked about already, the Khmer Empire. You also have Daviet. Those would be the most important ones to study. So that handout that we did in class on Thursday pretty much breaks those down for you. So that's what you want to have right there. Yeah, I mean, definitely you're going to want to know the differences, but also understand that Korea was built based on Chinese culture. So there's a lot more similarities than differences. I would say you don't really need to master the dates of the dynasties. Somebody asked me, and so I went over them just in case you wanted to utilize them. But you know, that's something that I don't think you're going to have to memorize. Well, Sui dynasty, like the Tang dynasty, heavy taxation, rebellions breaking out due to uh, unhappy citizens, basically leads to the fall of the Sui dynasty. And then you have Tong Tazong, a military guy who kind of brings back some normalcy to China and starts the Tang dynasty. Uh, the link should be at the top of the comments. It should be like the first few things there. And it's not like a blue link, so you're gonna have to like copy and paste it. I couldn't get it to go blue in the chat. Order of the notes for tomorrow. It's going to be blank review sheet with your name on it. Okay, so that's this document, the review sheet with your name on it. Then your review sheet answers. So your numbered and defined terms, figures, groups. After that, it should be sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 would be two things: the boxed graphic organizer and the printed notes that I gave you. Wu Zhao. Wu Zhao was an empress. She's the first female to like take control on her own. So she became the empress of China. She's the first female key ruler of the dynasties that that became important because of the status there. And she was responsible for invading and conquering Korea as well, which is a big deal, as you know. Okay, it looks like I've answered all of the questions thus far. So if there are any other questions, I will stay on for a few more minutes. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. I'm sorry to seventh hour, that third hour won, but congratulations, third hour on the coin flip. You guys will receive +1 on tomorrow's quiz. Other than that, I want to remind you to pray for the right things, read through your AMSCO, read through your notes, say thank you to your parents, and be here now for tomorrow. All right, I think that's it. I'm not going to post any more links. I already put them in there. They're at the top. Other people have seen them, so that's basically where I'm going to leave it off. Let's see. I think a couple of other important things would be to study those important pages. Making sure that you've done that would be essential, and being ready to turn in all of your notes right at the beginning, also an important factor. I don't have the link right here. I put it in there earlier, so I was copy and pasting other things. So, you could research on YouTube foot binding, and it probably would be a video that comes up there. But I did, I think, show it to most of the classes as well. So no, I don't have any other links there to share with you. Okay, any other questions other than what I've already, if it's a question I've already gone over, then I'm not going to do it again. I think I went over this one. Basically, that they were heavily influenced by China and they utilize the civil service exam. It's basically Korea, Korea. So very much relative there. But yes, very much influenced by Chinese. The Chinese under Wu Zhao conquered Korea, and that's how it began. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for joining, and I appreciate all of you, and I want to wish you good luck. I hope that everything goes well for you tomorrow. Have a great night. I wanted to say one more thing. A lot of my students have, in my experience, it seems like they've just turned 16. So a lot of new drivers out there. I just want to remind you to be careful driving. It's no rush. Don't get yourself in a hurry. Keep the space between you and the car in front of you, and you got to watch the other guy. Be a defensive driver like they teach you in your classes. You got to watch out for the other guy and keep your speed down. And then as it starts to rain or snow, I think you got to really slow your speed down for the travel conditions as well. But I think a good quote is, you could make a million good decisions, but it only takes one bad one to ruin your whole life. So remember that when you're thinking about doing something crazy, practice metacognition and make sure that you settle yourself down, think about it, and just take it easy. All right. Have a great night. And if you have any further questions that you think of, send me an email. That's the best way, and I will check into it and answer it to the best of my ability. Take it easy, everyone. Have a blessed night.